The gold camp had been running on fumes for 3 straight weeks, the heart of the operation, the wash plant, groaning under the strain until it finally ground to a halt. Without it, they weren't just losing hours. They were losing entire days, and with each one, thousands of dollars in gold slipped through their fingers. The numbers told a brutal truth. Production was down nearly 70%, and at this rate, they wouldn't even come close to their season target. Crew members avoided talking about it out loud, but everyone knew. If something didn't change now, the season was over. Morale had cratered. Loader operators sat idle, leaning on shovels, waiting for something, anything, to happen. The gold they'd worked so hard to dig up sat useless in a damp pile, turning into mud under the autumn drizzle. Over $600,000 worth of gold was trapped in that pay dirt. It might as well have been buried treasure locked in a safe no one had the key to. If you want to witness how Chris turns near disaster into $600,000 saved, hit like and subscribe now. The story is about to get intense. Just when it seemed the crew might pack it in, Chris Doumitt stepped away from his usual post and said the words no one expected. "I'll fix it." Chris wasn't the crew's mechanic by trade. His job was to keep the gold flowing through the wash plant, not rebuild it from scratch. But years in the bush had taught him that out here, waiting for help meant bleeding money. He looked at the silent, mud-streaked machine like a surgeon studying a patient on the table. This wasn't going to be a quick patch job, it was a full-scale rescue. While others muttered about ordering parts and hiring specialists, Chris was already pulling out the tool chest. "We don't have time to wait," he told the crew, his voice cutting through the drizzle. He had one advantage no outsider could match. He knew this plant inside and out, every rattle, every quirk, every weak point. "Give me a day," he said, gripping a wrench. "By tomorrow, this thing will be running." Chris's first sweep told him the trouble ran deeper than anyone thought. The plant wasn't suffering from one problem. It had 4 or 5 working against each other. Water pressure was collapsing halfway through each cycle, leaving sluice runs half-washed and gold sliding out with the tailings. The conveyor belt was slipping badly, shutting down without warning and dumping unprocessed dirt back onto the ground. The classifier screen was jammed tight with compacted gravel, the kind you couldn't just hose off. And beneath it all, a hydraulic pump hissed steadily, bleeding fluid faster than it could be topped up. It wasn't just broken. It was on the edge of total mechanical failure. And Chris knew every second wasted could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars lost forever. Every delay now wasn't just inconvenient. It was a direct threat to the season's survival. Every hour the plant sat idle, the crew was losing thousands of dollars. Chris knew it wasn't just about fixing metal. It was about saving the season's payday. The rain clouds rolling over the Alaskan ridge weren't waiting for anyone. In 48 hours, heavy showers threatened to turn the stockpiled pay dirt into a soggy, unprocessable slurry, swallowing the gold they had fought to extract. If the plant didn't run soon, everything could be lost, and the season would be over before it had a chance to shine. Chris didn't hesitate. He made the call. Straight through, no breaks, no shortcuts, until every component roared back to life. The crew snapped into action. Loader drivers darted across the yard, pushing and rearranging the stockpile, keeping fresh dirt within reach of the trommel. Sluice operators scrubbed and prepped every mat, testing water flow and riffle alignment, ensuring the first run would catch every last flake of gold. Tools clanged, diesel engines rumbled, and the air in the camp's makeshift workshop thickened with the smell of grease, oil, and determined focus. Chris started with the trommel, the heart of the wash plant. Its metal shell, once proud and polished, now bowed and warped from months of constant stress, rattling ominously with every vibration. Using a welding torch, he cut away the damaged sections with precision, sparks flying into the cold night air like fireflies caught in a storm. Each bolt removed revealed another layer of wear. Rusted bearings, rollers misaligned by repeated strain, seals cracked and hardened from neglect. It was a machine that had given everything and demanded repair in return. He sent crew members to scavenge through the abandoned machinery scattered across the claim, hunting for anything that could be repurposed. A pulley here, a section of belt there. Each scrap piece was a lifeline, a potential savior to patch a system hanging by a thread. The larger components required brute force, the skid steer groaning as it lifted heavy steel sections into place, Chris barking precise orders over the engine noise, orchestrating every move with the intensity of a battlefield commander. By nightfall, the plant was stripped bare, a skeletal frame under floodlights, its guts exposed to the cold air and sharper scrutiny of human hands. With the skeleton laid bare, the real challenge began. Chris mounted new belt tensioners, fashioned from mismatched scrap pieces scavenged in the chaos, parts that no manual would ever list, parts that required faith in ingenuity over instruction. He moved on to the hydraulic system, replacing hoses with custom-cut lengths, sealing every leak with a combination of industrial tape, clamps, and sheer problem-solving grit. The classifier screen, caked in rock dust and compacted gravel, was painstakingly cleaned, rebalanced, and reinforced. Every adjustment measured in millimeters, every mount secured to withstand the violent churn of the trommel. Crew members rotated tirelessly to hold lights, fetch tools, and keep Chris supplied with every possible aid. Their presence was electric, a current of anticipation and relief running through the camp. Hours melted into the cold Alaskan night, the plant slowly being reborn under their hands. By dawn, the machine stood whole once again, shining with fresh welds, aligned and reinforced, humming with potential energy, waiting to release. Chris stepped back for a moment, surveying the work, knowing that the true test was just moments away. The camp stirred around him, anticipation thick enough to taste, engines warmed, sluice boxes primed, and loaders readied to feed the first dirt into the trommel. Every worker knew this wasn't just about a machine. It was about reclaiming a season, salvaging hundreds of thousands in gold that had teetered on the brink of loss. Chris climbed into the control seat, gripped the throttle, and eased it forward. The plant shuddered under the weight of expectation, then roared to life with a deep, steady hum that echoed across the valley. Pay dirt slid onto the belt and fed into the trommel without a hitch, tumbling through the rotating drum like a choreographed dance. No slippage, no jams, no hesitation. The plant was alive and reclaiming every ounce of gold trapped in the piles of dirt surrounding the claim. Water surged through the sluice runs with steady pressure, and each box vibrated with energy, riffles holding even the smallest flakes as the gold flashed under the floodlights. Chris scanned the mats, noting every glimmer, every hint of color that had once seemed distant, and let out a slow breath. The tension in the camp broke, replaced by relief, hope, and excitement. The plant was back, and with it, the season had a pulse once again. The crew wasted no time capitalizing on the moment. Loader after loader pushed tons of pay dirt toward the trommel, each bucket feeding the hungry drum with precision. Operators ran every machine to its limit, testing its endurance while the trommel devoured the rock and gravel without complaint. By midday, every sluice box shimmered with the gold they had fought so hard to uncover, riffles catching a constant stream that seemed to reflect the sun even under artificial lights. The loaders moved in perfect synchronization, tires kicking up clouds of dust that swirled through the crisp Alaskan air. A visual testament to the rhythm and efficiency that had returned to the camp. Chris moved among the crew, inspecting each shovel of dirt as it fed into the trommel. Bright colors flashed in every handful, gold dancing in the water, proof that their labor had not been in vain. Smiles returned to faces that had been etched with worry and fatigue, and for the first time in weeks, laughter and chatter filled the worksite. The sound of running water, the hum of machinery, and the occasional clank of metal combined into a symphony of productivity and redemption. Every crew member felt it. The gold was coming home. Even as the first successful run stabilized, Chris didn't let up. The plant continued under floodlights, its rumble carrying across the valley like a heartbeat, steady and relentless. Crew members rotated in shifts, some feeding the plant, others tending sluice mats, all of them fueled by the knowledge that every bucket counted. Every scoop of dirt was a potential windfall. The night stretched long and cold, but no one complained. The adrenaline of reclaiming lost ground kept exhaustion at bay. The pay dirt stockpile began to shrink, a visual confirmation of progress, a reminder that the lost days could be recovered. Chris's eyes tracked the tally board in the cabin, watching the gold count climb steadily with each passing hour. Hundreds of flakes, then nuggets, then the heavier pieces all made their way through the system, stacking higher in trays and jars. It was more than numbers. It was a story of survival, resilience, and skill. By dawn, the valley was alive with the rhythm of labor. The trommel rotated smoothly, water coursed with unerring consistency, and every sluice box sang with the weight of gold. The crew moved with newfound confidence, their movements precise, coordinated, and full of purpose. Chris took a moment to step back, feeling the culmination of long hours, improvisation, and grit manifest in the flash of gold at every turn. The losses of the past weeks were being erased, one bucket at a time, and the momentum of the camp surged forward like a tide that refused to be stopped. Every step, every effort, every ingenuity Chris had poured into the plant now showed its reward. The gold flowed freely, and the camp operated with a synchrony that only crisis and triumph together could forge. Smiles, nods, and quiet words of encouragement passed between crew members as they worked, the collective energy of hope, relief, and determination electrifying the night. No one wanted to miss a single moment. They were witnessing the revival of the season with every bucket fed, every sluice mat cleaned, every ounce of gold captured. The plant's hum became the soundtrack of the night, echoing against the hills and valleys of the claim. Chris adjusted a throttle here, checked a sluice alignment there, and watched as the system performed flawlessly under pressure. Every glance toward the growing piles of gold, every measure of water flow, every movement of dirt reinforced the truth. They were no longer merely surviving. They were in control, pushing the season back on course with authority. The crew's energy never faltered. Breaks were brief, conversations minimal, focus total. Each bucket of pay dirt that entered the trommel was a battle won against time and circumstance. The night stretched, stars shining above like witnesses to the relentless effort below. And as the tally board climbed, so did the collective spirit of everyone on the claim, knowing that the work of the past hours had not just restored a machine, it had restored the lifeblood of the season. Chris moved from sluice to trommel, checking every feed, noting the color in the mats, ensuring the flow never faltered. The loaders and operators kept pace, their synchronization flawless, and the plant continued to devour dirt and release gold as if awakened from a long slumber. The air was thick with excitement, the scent of diesel, wet dirt, and effort mixing into something almost tangible. Each person in the camp felt the momentum, knew the stakes, and rose to meet them with unspoken determination. By sunrise, the transformation was undeniable. Where doubt and frustration had reigned, now stood a crew united by success, and a machine performing beyond expectation. The gold tally reflected every ounce of their efforts, and the visual confirmation of sluice boxes brimming with gold sent a wave of satisfaction through every worker. They had clawed back lost time, reclaimed lost ground, and brought the camp roaring back to life. Chris allowed himself a brief moment to breathe, eyes scanning the valley and the plant, taking in the harmony of motion, the flash of gold, the hum of machinery, and the pride in his crew. Each step, each adjustment, each risk had led to this. Not just a functional plant, not just recovered gold, but the revival of a season that had teetered on the edge. Every hand in the camp had played a part. Every ounce of ingenuity, skill, and persistence had converged in this relentless, golden current. The day pressed on, and the rhythm never wavered. Buckets of dirt fed the trommel, sluices captured gold, and tally boards climbed higher, a visual testament to the reclamation of both wealth and spirit. Chris's leadership, ingenuity, and resolve were mirrored in the seamless operation of the plant and the synchronized effort of the crew. They were no longer behind. They were surging forward, their success a declaration that the season was alive and thriving. Every splash of water, every metallic clank, every glint of gold carried with it the story of a crew who refused to give up, who adapted, innovated, and pushed through obstacles that would have broken lesser teams. The night and morning blended into a continuous push of motion and effort, with the plant as the heart, the crew as the arteries, and the gold flowing as the lifeblood. By mid-morning the claim had transformed. The once silent plant now thrummed with energy, every sluice box sparkling, every loader moving with precision, every operator attuned to the rhythm. Chris checked every metric, every alignment, every flow, confirming that the work of the past 2 nights had fully restored the camp's pulse. The gold wasn't just coming, it was surging, validating every risk, every hour of labor, every ounce of ingenuity poured into the plant. The camp had shifted. From desperation to triumph, from stilled machinery to relentless motion, the revival was total. Every bucket, every sluice, every run of the trommel was a victory, a step toward recovering the season's promise. The tally board continued its steady climb, the visual proof that the hard work, ingenuity, and determination had paid off. Chris's eyes swept the operation, a silent acknowledgement passing between crew members. They were back, fully, and the season's stakes had been met head-on. The plant continued its relentless work. The gold flowed freely, and the crew moved as one unit, each person understanding the stakes and rising to meet them. No shortcuts, no hesitations, just the hum of machinery, the flash of gold, and the determined rhythm of miners reclaiming their season. Every ounce of dirt processed, every ounce of gold captured, was a testament to skill, resilience, and sheer will. Chris finally allowed a moment to step back, surveying the fully operational plant, the growing piles of captured gold, and the synchronized movement of the crew. Their collective effort had transformed uncertainty into triumph, stalled production into unstoppable flow, and fear of loss into hard-won recovery. With the plant running flawlessly, the crew shifted focus seamlessly to the final stage, the cleanup. Each sluice run, fed by countless buckets of pay dirt, overflowed with gold-laced material, shimmering under the floodlights like rivers of molten sunlight. Hands moved with practiced precision, scooping up concentrate and pouring it onto the cleanup table where the gold revealed itself in all its glory, fine dust glinting alongside nuggets heavy with promise. The air vibrated with anticipation, every worker aware that this was the moment their sweat and ingenuity would be measured in pure value. Bucket after bucket went through the process, the sound of water splashing over riffles, mingling with the clatter of metal trays. Every handful revealed more, tiny flakes clinging to mats, nuggets catching the light and reflecting it back with a brilliance that seemed almost unreal. Chris moved among them, inspecting, guiding, and occasionally grinning at the sight of particularly hefty pieces. The scale ticked upward, tray by tray, a steady crescendo that mirrored the excitement building in the camp. $100,000, $300,000. The numbers climbing with every measure, each one a testament to hours of relentless effort, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender to circumstance. The purity astounded even the most experienced hands in the camp. For weeks they had seen promising colors, but never anything like this. The flakes were rich and bright, the nuggets heavy and solid, rivaling the best days they had ever witnessed on the claim. Chris's adjustments to the plant, the long nights of improvisation, and the tireless attention to every bolt and hose had not just restored function. They had optimized it, transforming a nearly dead system into a gold-capturing machine capable of delivering peak performance. As the final counts were tallied, the total neared $600,000. The reality sank in slowly. For a moment, the crew simply stared, unable to fully process the sheer scale of what they had salvaged. Hundreds of thousands of dollars that had teetered on the edge of loss were now secured, shimmering in trays and jars, tangible proof of their determination. Chris looked around at his crew, seeing in their eyes a mixture of disbelief, pride, and exhilaration. This was more than numbers. It was the resurrection of their season, a hard-won victory against the clock, the elements, and mechanical failure. The number on the scale didn't just represent gold, it represented survival, triumph, and the salvation of the season from collapse. Without Chris's intervention, all of that wealth would still be trapped in the ground, buried under mud and frustration, inaccessible and effectively worthless. Crew members crowded around him, shaking his hands, clapping him on the back, their voices rising in unison to celebrate what they all knew was a near-miraculous achievement. Chris, ever humble, simply smiled, wiping the grease and sweat from his hands, and said, "Just part of the job." Yet, in the eyes of everyone present, it was anything but ordinary. It was legendary. Word of Chris's plant resurrection spread through the camp like wildfire. Other crews came to see the marvel for themselves, a patched-together machine that had been on the brink of total failure just days before, and now performed beyond expectations. They walked the perimeter, tested the sluice flow, marveled at the efficiency of the conveyors and trommel, and asked questions that Chris patiently answered. The plant had become more than a tool. It was a symbol of ingenuity, grit, and the unyielding will of a man who refused to watch months of labor wash away. The plant now ran smoother than it had all season. Every bolt, every belt, every sluice was tested and reinforced, creating a system capable of handling the heaviest pay dirt the claim could throw at it. Even the smallest adjustments Chris had made, the custom tensioners, the repaired hydraulics, the meticulously cleaned classifier screens, had combined into a machine that felt almost alive, humming steadily, a perfect blend of engineering and instinct. Crew members began stockpiling spare parts, motivated by the lesson that nothing in the bush could be taken for granted. They prepared for the future with the wisdom that preparedness was just as valuable as gold itself. Somewhere in that Alaskan valley, the hum of the plant carried on, rhythmic and persistent, echoing against mountains and through the trees, a constant reminder of the triumph that had been achieved. The valley seemed alive with it, as if acknowledging the skill, tenacity, and endurance poured into every wrench turn and every calculated adjustment. And somewhere within that hum, the memory of the day Chris Doumitt saved $600,000 worth of gold lingered, not just as a story of wealth, but as a story of resilience, leadership, and the relentless pursuit of success in the unforgiving wilderness of Alaska. The crew moved through their tasks with a renewed confidence, their movements sharper, their focus deeper, and their spirits higher than they had been for weeks. Every scoop of dirt, every sluice mat cleaned, every tray of gold counted, reinforced the lessons learned. Skill, timing, and determination could overcome nearly any obstacle. The hum of the trommel was more than machinery at work. It was the heartbeat of a claim, the pulse of a team restored, and the rhythm of a season reclaimed from the edge of disaster. Chris walked the length of the plant, eyes catching every shimmer of gold, every detail of the restored machinery. He paused at sluices now filled with gold-laden concentrate, noting the improvements in flow and efficiency. Crew members moved around him, their coordinated efforts a dance perfected by necessity and sharpened by crisis. Every shift change, every bucket fed into the plant was executed with precision. There was no room for error, and under Chris's watchful eyes, none occurred. The plant was alive, the gold was flowing, and the crew was fully back in the game. Even as the day stretched, the pace never slackened. Chris and his team kept the flow continuous, ensuring no ounce of pay dirt was wasted. The efficiency of their work, honed by the pressure of impending disaster, now turned into an unstoppable rhythm. Each sluice overflowed with material carefully captured and separated, each tray weighed and recorded. The tally board climbed relentlessly, reflecting both the skill of the crew and the brilliance of the fix. By mid-afternoon, the scale confirmed what the crew had suspected. $600,000 worth of gold had been processed, captured, and secured. The camp buzzed with quiet celebration, a recognition of the extraordinary effort that had gone into saving the season. Chris watched as the crew handled the trays, the glint of gold reflecting in their eyes, each nugget and flake a testament to what human skill, ingenuity, and determination could accomplish under pressure. The legacy of the fix extended beyond the claim itself. Stories of the restored plant would travel through the mining community, inspiring other crews and setting a new standard for problem-solving under duress. Chris's ingenuity had not only recovered the season, but had created a blueprint for resilience in the field. A tangible example of what could be accomplished when expertise and determination intersect. As evening approached, the plant continued its steady hum, a constant signal that the claim was alive, productive, and secure. The valley held the sound like a promise, a reassurance that months of labor had not been in vain. Chris moved among the crew, offering guidance where needed, observing without intrusion, proud but unassuming. The gold was no longer just numbers or material. It was a measure of triumph, a record of persistence, and a symbol of the season reclaimed from the brink. The hum of the trommel, the flow of the sluice boxes, the rhythmic operations of loaders and crew members, all of it combined into a living testament to the endurance and skill of men who refused to let adversity win. Chris's fix had achieved more than functionality. It had restored pride, purpose, and the promise of prosperity. The gold would endure, the claim would continue, and the story of the day, a single man's determination saved a season, would echo in the valley and beyond. The camp settled into a rhythm of sustained productivity, each worker now operating with the knowledge that crisis had been overcome. The plant's hum continued without pause, sluice boxes ran perfectly, and the captured gold glimmered in every tray, a visual record of the triumph. Chris surveyed the operation one last time, satisfied that every detail had been attended to, every flaw corrected, every ounce of gold recovered. The day's work would be remembered not just for the wealth it produced, but for the resilience, skill, and ingenuity that had made it possible. Somewhere in the distance, the valley carried the sounds of a thriving claim, a hum of machinery, the clatter of tools, the excitement of crew members. A living memory of the day Chris Doumitt saved $600,000 worth of gold, restored a season, and created a legacy that would resonate through Gold Rush history. The plant continued its steady work, a monument to determination, a symbol of triumph, and a heartbeat of the claim that refused to fail. For more epic Gold Rush moments, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the action.